guys, Jake here. I just wanted to make a quick video to help you pick out your first guitar, arguably the most important guitar you're ever going to own. I think there's a huge misconception about the first guitar. I hear a lot of students and students' parents come in and say, I don't know if I'm going to stick with it. I don't know if my kids are going to stick with it, so I don't want to spend a bunch of money. And I think sometimes in getting the cheapest guitar that you can find, you may actually increase the likelihood that you're not going to stick with it or that your kids are not going to stick with it. Because sometimes those budget guitars have really high action. That means the strings are really high above the frets. You have to squeeze harder, and the string has to travel a farther distance before it makes contact with the fret. That makes it a lot tougher in the early days. That requires more hand strength. And guitar is already difficult, so you definitely don't want to make it more difficult than you have to. So sometimes the budget guitars have high action. A lot of times they don't stay in tune. You have to tune them constantly. And that can be really frustrating as a beginner because even if you play something correctly, it can sound bad if the guitar's not in tune. And if you're constantly having to retune it every 30 minutes or hour or whatever, it can just really kind of distract you from what you need to be focused on, which is playing it. You know, you've got an app out or you got a tuner out, and you're just fiddling with these for a lot of your time. So the tuning issue and then the action issue of some of the budget guitars really makes them kind of a no-go for a lot of beginners, I think. If you have a little bit more of a budget, say instead of spending $100 to $150, if you can spend $250 to $300, I think you can get a significantly better instrument. You don't have to spend a ton of money, but just that little extra investment can really help you. It can pay off in the end. Brings me to my next point. Don't buy a guitar on the internet. Go into a local music shop, support a local business, and make an experience out of it. I remember going to the guitar shop when I was a kid before I even learned how to play and just looking at guitars on the wall and thinking, wow, these things look awesome. These are beautiful. I just want to pick them up and hold them. And if you get a guitar that you're attracted to, that you like the look of, that you like the feel of just when you hold it, well, that's probably going to increase the likelihood of you picking up the guitar and holding it at home. You know, if you have the guitar out on a music stand, which you should keep it on a music stand, because if it goes into a case, sometimes it doesn't come back out of the case. So put it on a music stand where you can see it in your living room or in your bedroom or whatever. And if you like the look of that guitar, if you're attracted to that guitar, you're going to want to pick it up and hold it. If you pick it up and hold it, you might end up playing it. So I think having a pretty guitar or a guitar that you just like the look of is actually really important. I don't think that's just a superficial thing. I think it actually increases the amount of time that you're going to spend with that guitar. So I would say if you're under the age of 10, you're probably going to be shopping for an electric guitar. I always tell my students to start on electric because the strings are thinner. It doesn't require as much hand strength. There's less tension on the strings, so it doesn't hurt the fingertips as much to play an electric guitar. A lot of people don't realize this, but acoustic guitars have thicker strings, harder tension, and it actually hurts the fingertips more in the early days to play an acoustic guitar. So if there's actual physical pain when you play the instrument, sometimes that really deters younger kids from playing it. If you're over that age, a lot of that is going to be up to personal preference, whether you start on an acoustic or an electric. I like to tell people, go into your most played songs on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever service you listen to music on, and look at all your top played songs and just say, hey, is the electric guitar featured in most of these songs, or is that an acoustic guitar being featured in most of these songs? Because if you're listening to music that primarily has electric guitar, you're probably going to start on an electric guitar because you want to play things that are familiar to you. You want to play some of your favorite songs. That's what made you want to play to start with, is listening to those songs. If you listen to a lot of folk music, country music, bluegrass, singer-songwriter, you're probably going to start on an acoustic guitar. If that's the majority of the music that you're consuming is played on an acoustic, by all means start on an acoustic. There's no issue with that, especially after a certain age. But for younger people, I would say probably go for an electric guitar. There's a misconception around that as well, to where a lot of old timers feel like, oh, everybody has to start on an acoustic guitar because that's just the way that it was done in the early 1900s. I don't think that is true. So in my experience, I typically see kids play for longer periods of time, adults as well, if they're playing an electric guitar. The other cool thing about electric guitars is that you can get sound effects, you can get different types of amplifiers. They make them in all different kinds of colors. So there's a lot of customization that goes along with it. But I would say definitely go into an actual guitar shop, make an experience out of it, sit down and hold them. You don't have to know how to play it, just look at them on the wall. And if something speaks to you, pick it up, say, hey, I'd just like to hold that one. If you're under 10 years old, you're probably going to be looking for a 3/4 size guitar. Honestly, even adults that are, say, under about 5 feet tall, and this is just an estimate, but if you're under 5 feet tall, 3/4 size guitar is probably going to be pretty comfortable for you. Even for female students or smaller male students like me, I think some of these 7/8 size guitars, like the Taylor GS Mini, excellent choice for a starter guitar. So you don't necessarily have to have a 3/4 size or a full size. There are some 7/8 size out there. So if you've got smaller hands or a smaller frame, maybe look at one of these that's slightly smaller. The younger kids obviously is going to be an actual 3/4 size. Usually by the time you get into your teens, 13 years old, yeah, you can go ahead and switch to a full size guitar, and that'll take you the rest of the way. But I hope these things help. It's just some things that I've learned over the years, teaching a lot of lessons and talking to different people about it. And this is one of the questions that I get asked the most. So I hope this helped. I'll see you on the next one.